At this time, I'd like to open up the public hearing for the ordinance to amend the animal control ordinance to reflect changes made to Lexington County. Is there anyone who would like to speak on the ordinance to amend the animal control ordinance to reflect changes made to Lexington County? Please step forward. You have 3 minutes. All right, if there's no one at this time, I will close the public hearing for the ordinance to amend the animal control ordinance to reflect changes made to Lexington County. At this time, just keep smacking this thing. I would like to open the public hearing, ordinance rezoning 2 parcels of property located northeast of Mitchell Street from R1, single family residential, to C2, office and institutional commercial, Lexington County TMS number 5900-06-025, consists of 13.77 acres, and TMS number 5900-06-026, consisting of 0.73 acres, for a total of 14.5 acres. Do I have any speakers? Just state your name into the mic, please. And we have 3 minutes.
My name is Bob Hall, and I am the property owner in the close vicinity of this property. And I have concerns that rezoning this property will ultimately end up in uses which will increase traffic flow, which will affect the quality of life and the safety for those individuals living in the neighborhoods. I provided council with a packet which shows what might be the potential rerouting of traffic. We are already seeing increased traffic on Highland Avenue simply from the congestion that already exists in the area. And of course, those people who use that residential street do not abide by the 25-mile-an-hour zone. I'm also concerned about the safety of the students who will be walking up and down the sidewalks. Now, as a C1, I think the definition is a little bit misleading. If you look closely inside, this thing opens it up for everything except big box stores and fast food establishments. If there were to be, if the new owners would elect to do so, from my interpretation, they could open 10 2,500 square foot retail stores. What I'm asking is the council send this back, not reject it, but send it back and ask the zoning or the planning commission to do diligence and do a traffic impact study, which is called for in our ordinances, I guess 6-14, and see if that impact study will prove that this has a negative impact. We also feel that last Thursday night I stood here and watched a presentation on the future for bike and pedestrian traffic, and this would be counterproductive to that plan, since this will open up additional traffic in those areas that that plan would designate as bike and pedestrian traffic. So I don't think that this rezoning is in the best interest of the majority of the citizens of this community. I just simply ask that you take a second look at it very closely, particularly from the traffic situation which it's going to bring about. You have no idea what the use is going to be. I understood for a while it was going to be apartments, and it keeps changing. So, but it does. The C1 opens up it for a potpourri of possible uses, all of which will drastically increase our traffic.
Thank you. Anyone else? State your name, please.
I'm Brian Eliezer, and I own a home adjacent to this property. And this is a very difficult position for me. because I know Lynn Goodman and I know Carol Hoover, who has applied for this application. So it puts me in a very difficult position that I would love to see how we could navigate through this for the benefit of all. But speaking specifically on the rezoning in the proposal in front of me today, I went through R1 and C2 that Patricia Town Hall gave me very closely. And R1 provides a large flexibilities of uses that it could be used for, whereas C2 may allow things that may be adverse to the homeowners in that area. And I'm speaking today for my family who owns a home there, as well as two other people who live there, Tawana Beatonbow and her mother, who both own houses adjacent. But one is elderly and couldn't be here, and the other one is sick in bed today, where she would have been here because I spoke to both of them 2 weeks ago. So I believe that there's a lot of flexibility in R1, but I have no idea what the plan is if it's rezoned, because once it's rezoned, then the cat's out of the bag as far as what it may be used for. Because the only entrance to this property is off Mitchell Street, because the property is largely landlocked. And all it will do is bring more traffic, more noise, and light into my backyard. My backyard's already lit from Walmart, but I understand. But that's more noise and traffic. And as Mr. Hall just spoken on, I'm concerned about any economic analysis that has been intended or implied or potentially written, because I've seen how these things have impacted all the infrastructure before, as well as land use and roads and schools, et cetera. And as I go through this, I'm trying to refurbish the home, and I'm trying to move back here. I'm a citizen of Batesburg-Leesville. When I was in the military and I moved away, but I'm still maintaining property here because I've always felt this is my home. And that piece of land is smack dab in the middle of residential area that we've all enjoyed for many, many years, and that's my biggest concern. There's also already a lot of vacant land and lots in the corridor of Highway 23 and Highway 1. That troubles me because they're kind of eyesores, and there's already commercial potential here already without opening up other areas. I think those ought to be further explored. I don't know if this does become multi-resident dwelling, which is one of the rumors I heard. I don't know where the jobs are in the job market and the growth that would occupy these lands. I've seen this happen before, and then when the jobs didn't come, then it ended up being lower income families and stuff, which will really depreciate. But I'm very interested in this town growing, but smart growth, as I mentioned earlier. Build it and they will come, sometimes they don't. And so my family is opposed to this. I think there's a large risk of detrimentally impacting my property home and its potential. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Parcels.
Thank you.
Thank you. Not based on anything that was said tonight, the family has decided to withdraw their request for the rezone at this time. We recently, a couple things, we recently were informed that a triangular parcel at the rear of the property is not annexed into town. Therefore, if we were to go through the reading tonight and to try to pass, then we would then be back in front of council again to try to get that second parcel annexed in and then rezoned as well. The plan now would be to apply for a property plat amendment to get that annexed into town before the entire property can be rezoned. So that's where we are. One of the things I just want to say, I mean, I realize that when there's change going on, there's always things that are impacted. But one of my mottos is you either move forward, backwards, you don't stand still. So, but again, thank you for your time. Thank you for what all of you do. And just want to let you know we do withdraw that request.
All right. Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this hearing, public hearing? All right, at this time, I'm going to close the public hearing for ordinance rezoning 2 parcels of property located northeast of Mitchell Street from R1 Single Family Residential to C2 Office and Institutional Commercial. And at this time, open up our regular council meeting here. Welcome to the town of Batesburg-Leesville, to our regular council meeting. It is March 11th, and it's beautiful outside, 7:12 p.m. Here at our beautiful town hall complex. At this time, if I could, I would like to ask Mr. Carol Hoover if you would lead us in an invocation, please.
Let us pray. Gracious God, Heavenly Father, we thank you for this beautiful Lord's Day you get upon us. We thank you for the blessings bestowed upon us. And as we go about our town business, so Father, lead us in the way that you want us to do, your will and not ours. We thank you for all that grace and love and comfort and joy. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. And stand for the pledge, please. Mr. Gambrell, if you would, please.
Render a hand salute. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. Moving on to item 4, approval of the agenda. If I could get an approval.
Motion to approve, Mr. Reed.
Second.
Repeat the motion, please.
Motion to approve the agenda.
We have one item that has been withdrawn from the agenda on unfinished business.
I make a motion to remove the ordinance of the 2 parcel property located northeast of Mitchell Street.
So the motion, more specifically, is to approve the agenda with the removal of the second reading.
Of the ordinance of rezoning 2 parcels of property.
Okay, so I have a first by Ms. Hallman. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Prowse. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? The agenda is approved in spite of your right and your left. All right. Moving on to item 5, adoption of the minutes.
Move they be approved.
We're going to do a couple here, Mr. Gambrell, so if you could give me
Regular council meeting.
the regular council meeting February 11th. I have a motion by Mr. Gambrell. Do I have a second?
Second.
A second by Ms. Hallman. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. And the minutes have been adopted unanimously. Do I have a motion to adopt the minutes from February 25th, 2019 council work session?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Prowse. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Hallman. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. And the minutes have been approved unanimously. Moving on to item 6, which is the mayor's report. Our next regular council meeting will be April the 8th, right before tax season, so please come to the meeting, even though you'll be busily paying Uncle Sam. Moving on to item B, council committee report, Central Midlands COG. Mr. Gambrell.
Yes, sir, you'll have Teddy will have a mention of something very important to the town of Batesburg-Leesville in his update. The north side of the Sluter River from Johnny W. Jeffcoat Walkway at the Lake Murray Dam to the Three Rivers Greenway at the Rivers Banks Zoo. This project will be a 10.5 multi-use paved pathway that will extend. That would be a nice walking trail.
Nice.
That's what COG is getting ready to unload. That's all I have for
Thanks, sir. Moving on to item 2, EPAC, Councilmember Prowse.
EPAC has not met this month. Nothing to report.
And then moving on to me, Joint Municipal Water and Sewer Commission. There was one report that had come out, and Mr. Shumper, you're probably aware of this, of microplastics that have been found, in water sources. And this is happening all through the United States. And we discussed this a little bit at the Joint Municipal Water and Sewer Commission. To really no resolve as of yet, just know that it's something that's going to have to be dealt with. And everyone keep in mind what you use and what you throw away and where you throw it away. Just keep that in mind, because this is our environment. We only get one shot at it. Moving on to the Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Mike Taylor, if you are ready, we'd love to hear from the Chamber. This is Mike Taylor, President of the Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. The Relay for Life Chamber Dance is this Friday night at TNS Farm. Tickets are available at the Chamber and will be at the door for those who would like to attend. Tom Ledbetter, who's with Midlands Technical College, will be our speaker at our monthly general membership meeting, and he will talk about the Minnell campus. So we look forward to that. I had mentioned last month that Arts on the Ridge would be having summer camps. Just give a little information on that, if I may. It'll be held June 24th through the 27th at the Batesburg-Leesville Middle School. As I mentioned before, they'll have the free breakfast and lunch that's available through Lexington through summer feeding program. The Performing Arts and Visual Arts Camp will be held from 9 until 12, and the Choral Camp will be held until 9 until 11. Each camp is $25 with the exception of the visual. It's an extra $5 charge for that for supplies. Each camp will have approximately 30 students in it, so roughly 90 will be available that day, which is nice for this community. The choral camp will have students who will enter the 2nd or 3rd grade in the fall of 2019. The performing arts camp will have children that are entering the 3rd to the 7th grades in the fall. And the visual arts camp will have children who are in the 4th through the 8th grades. The district will give flyers and everything to all the students to take home. The students will have, it will be based on a first come, first served basis for the children. And like I say, 30 is all we'll be able to handle in each camp. I wanted to give a little information. Some of this may be repetitive that you may have heard, and I apologize for that. But this is some information from County Councilman Larry Brigham from our board meeting that we had, and also from an email I received. US 1 4-lane widening project to Batesburg-Leesville has been delayed until sometime between the summer and the fall due to cable and the roadway design. DOT has mailed a letter to Quest asking for them to relocate the cable or send them a letter stating that it's not there. This is the only utility left preventing the project from moving forward. Horse Creek and Hollow Creek bridges on Highway 370 expected to be completed in winter of 2020. And I-26 lane expansion from mile marker 49 to 60 has been delayed due to drainage design. DOT engineering has withdrawn the design plans, and construction is scheduled to be completed in the fall of 2020. There are 3 subdivisions within his district that have been permitted to build homes. Finley Farms Phase 1, 122 lots. Rocky Springs, 82 lots. Spring Hill Lake Phase 3, 84 lots. And unfortunately, all 3 of those are located in School District 1. It'd be nice if they were, a couple of those were in School District 2. The 4.12 mile stretch on West Columbia Avenue from the trestle to the county line has been approved to be resurfaced. Has a bid cost of $1.805 million. He has emphasized the fact that we need to be aware that the part from Broad Street up to Oswald Lumber falls into the widening of the #1 highway. So it will not get paved down to Broad Street until the widening comes all the way into Batesburg-Leesville. Wanted to say a brief thing about the dream catchers. They are doing many things, but one thing they're involved in right now is getting ready for the Peachtree 23-yard sale. There's an application on our Facebook page for those who would like to get a spot to be on 23 for the Peachtree 23-yard sale, which is the first weekend in June. Also, I want to thank Ms. Pat for, yes ma'am, I want to thank you, and that we have had something for about the last year and a half, I think, that Ted and I worked together on to send a letter out to all the new businesses that get a business license, to thank them for their investment in our community and let them know we're here to help them in any way, the town and the chamber. And Pat sends me that information, and I get it out, and I'm more knowledgeable now that I can't look at the business address only, I've got to look at where the mailing address is too. So I appreciate your helping me with that. That's my report, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mike, appreciate it. Oh, one more time, if you could plug the date and time, location of the general membership meeting.
General membership meeting is the 4th Thursday at 12 o'clock at Sheila's Barbecue.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Moving on to public comment regarding items on the agenda. Pat, do we have anything this evening?
Mr. Bob Hall.
Mr. Bob Hall?
Speak on the utility line.
Utility,
Yeah.
am I premature?
No, you're fine. Go ahead, please approach.
Okay.
If you'll let me pull up my timer, Mr. Bob.
All right.
Whenever you're ready, I'll start.
Okay. I'm sure that you as members of the council consider yourself good stewards, and I hope you are, of the taxpayers' money. That includes those people who subscribe to the water and sewer systems. You have tonight on the agenda funds to relocate a water line and a sewer line. Let's address the water line, let's address the sewer line. The sewer line, I understand, is on the alley behind or beside Economy Furniture. It's on property currently owned by Economy Furniture of Truett LLC. That property was purchased in 1998 from the Loricks. I would assume that there was full knowledge that the sewer line was there at the time. And last year, there was a transaction which transferred the alley and associated property from a Ms. Rotten to the same LLC. So therefore, what you're doing is approving water and sewer money paid by us, the taxpayers and consumers, to move a line on a person's property to another piece of their property. My question is that if we do it this time, what happens when this individual or entity decides they want to build on their other piece of property? Are we, the ratepayers for water and sewer, going to be forced to pay again to have it relocated? The second issue is the cost. Now, I have no idea what the cost is because apparently there is $93,220 involved. Does that include the US #1 relocation?
That's the entire.
So therefore, don't have numbers in order to give you an idea, but I did make some assumptions. Hopefully they will not bite me, so I will not be able to sit down. But if you take out the majority of the money, or 60% or $50,000, and appropriate to US #1, then you leave $43,220, unless, again, give the majority of that to the water line. And if we give the majority of that to the water line, we're looking at $25,990 to be shared by 3,000 customers. Now, this is going to move a water line off of a road that was, in 2011, given by this town to the property owners who are asking you to move that line. There is a transfer where we transferred the ownership, closed the road, transferred the property to those people. Now we're being asked to move that water line, even though Section 3 of the judge's decree says that the town retains the right to access that water line where it is at any time in the future. But you're asking us at that rate to cough up $8.67 for every water payer on the system to move that line. Of course, I had to assume some numbers. $8.67 out of my pocket only cost me 4 cups of coffee, all right? Which means I can't pay for somebody's coffee.
That's your time, Mr. Hall. If you'd like to wrap up real quick, I'll give you a couple
Okay,
seconds.
I will wrap up.
Couple seconds.
With the fact, the same thing goes for the sewer line. Every sewer, 1,990 of us, are going to be asked to cough up $946 to pay to move that sewer line. All right, do I pay on the way out, or?
Thank you, Mr. Hall.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to, my page here. Moving on to new business, or unfinished business. Item A, this is a second reading of ordinance to amend the animal control ordinance reflecting the changes made by Lexington County. So this is a second reading. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
A motion by Mr. Gambrell. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Prowse. Any discussion? District 2,
Vote you just.
District 6,
Yes.
District 7,
Yes.
District 8,
Yes.
and I vote yes. The second reading of the ordinance to amend the animal control ordinance to reflect changes by Lexington County has passed unanimously. The next item on the agenda on unfinished business, item B, approval of funds related to relocation of sewer line in the alley in downtown Leesville District. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move that we have the request to the sewer line relocation in Main Street, Leesville, behind Economy Furniture.
I have a motion by Ms. Whittle. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Prowse. And discussion, please.
Mr. Mayor, I know Mr. Brent Shealy, owner of Economy Furniture, who's made the request to the town, is present tonight. If council were to have any questions, or if Mr. Shealy wished to say anything regarding this project. So,
Yeah, Mr. Shealy, if you have anything to say, that would be great.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here. This is a project we've been working on for a number of years, and it was not known at the closing of this property with the title search that there was a sewer line on this property. So it was really not determined that the town had a line there until we got ready to really almost begin construction, when we asked the water department to come and be sure that all the lines were in the alley and not in our property. There was no easement recorded by the town when this line was put there, whenever it was. My guess is way back in the 30s or 40s or something like that. And it was not known by anyone that the line was there until really probably a year and a half ago, when the town came out to mark the lines. So we're simply asking that the town move their line off of our property into the alley, and we will be glad to work out an easement agreement or some legal agreement that gives the town permission to do that, to relocate it into the alley, which I have a quick claim deed to the alley now. I did not when all this started, but I do now, and I'll be glad to work that out with the town. That's not a problem. We just simply would like the town's line off of our property so that we can add on to the rear side of our store. And we feel like obviously this is something that will be very good for our business and good for the town. will generate property tax revenues from now on, and certainly construction permits, building permits. Our building application or permit has been approved for quite some time. We have architectural drawings that we've had again for some time. So I appreciate your consideration of this, but it is simply a matter of an unknown line being found on our property, and we just simply would like to have it moved. Any questions?
I think that, like the alleyway, so the rights of that alleyway, where we have, obviously we have a sewer line going through that alleyway.
Right.
And you said you have a quick claim deed from the Rottens for that alleyway.
That's correct.
Is that something that you would want to turn over to the town?
Possibly so. I think, I don't know what the best manner would be, but I think that's certainly something we need to discuss. Would certainly either do that or grant a permanent easement or whatever we need to do. It's certainly not our intention to build into the alley. We simply want to build on our part of the property. The alley would stay the way it is. And, you know, again, whatever legal agreement we would need to come to have the town to do this work in the alley. The sewer line already exists in the alley for a big part of the alley, but this particular corner, the sewer line cuts across our property. The alley kind of curves around, but the sewer line cuts across our property, and then it goes parallel to Main Street out to number 1. And so that exists. That's not a problem. That's not on anybody's property, except for this one corner, you might say.
And Mr. Hall had alluded to that this line was on the Lorix property or not your property, or you purchased?
I purchased the property from the Lorix. It's at the rear of the attic, which is adjacent to our store, with the sole purpose of trying to clean that up and hopefully doing a small addition at some time in the future. And that's where this all started. It was not known that there was a line there at that time. Certainly in the title search, there were no easements that were recorded. Really didn't know it until we cleaned all that up. If you've never been back there, it used to be a pretty tough area. We cleaned it all up in preparation to try to do this, and that's when we had the town come and mark the lines to be sure everything was okay, and that's what we found.
Any other questions for Mr. Shealy? And thank you, Brent.
Okay,
Appreciate it. Mr. Luckadoo, what is the price? I know there was a price that was estimated by our speaker earlier. Would you tell us the price of this?
The total bid, as he alluded to, was $93,220 for all of the projects combined. This particular gravity sewer line relocation was $28,760 of that.
Any other questions or discussion? District 2?
Could you clarify that, on that cost again?
So the cost for the alleyway sewer line relocation is $28,760.
And where did the $9,200 come from?
So when we bid Highway 1, this and Pershing Street, we bid it all as one package. It was $93,220. But this particular project within that bid was $28,760.
How many feet of line are we moving?
We are talking about 121 feet of 8-inch gravity sewer line and 2 new 4-foot diameter manholes, 1 new standard manhole, and the reconnection of 4 existing sewer services to the line.
And this serves all of the businesses back behind.
It's the service lines from where this manhole would be moved. So from the economy furniture, and then it's the
East Railroad Avenue.
TLD's road. Yeah,
All
east.
those storefronts.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we're gonna cut the line behind Main Street and tie it back into the alleyway, the existing alleyway.
Right, if you look at the map that's in your packet, the green line is the existing line as it stands now. The red line would be the proposed move.
And this is our town line on private property with no easement.
Correct, there's been no recorded easement over time that we can find.
Well, do we have any easement going down Main Street back towards Highway 1? Do we have any easement there?
No easement that we can find for that section of green line.
Of the green line?
The green line, that's the existing line as it stands now.
E89, we don't have any easement for that line?
No, sir.
Does the rest of that line on private property as well?
Yes.
Or is it in the-
But it's right on the line of the alley and the private property lines. It's running right on the line down through there.
Mr. Mayor, we might want to delay this until we find out exactly what our cost is gonna be, because if we start moving in one place, we might have to move the whole dead gem line.
Mr. Schumer, are you familiar with this line?
Yes.
Can you address that thought?
Actually, I think Brent alluded to the fact that he would work out an easement opportunity for us for the entire alleyway.
For the entire.
Yeah, that we would have easement on that entire piece of line from number one to where it terminates and have ingress, egress, access to it for maintenance and repair.
So we do have a,
No, we would have that before we ever commenced construction. Right now, we're just trying to get funding approved.
we do have an easement problem presently down that alley.
An easement promise?
Problem.
Oh, yes, we have no easement, no recorded easement that we can find.
Thank you. Any other discussion, questions? We have a motion and a second on the table.
Mr. Shealy, I hate to hold you up on your expansion, because heaven knows this town needs it. But I would like to know that the town owns the right-of-way coming from Highway 1 up and taking a right. So if we need to do any due diligence and correct something, we can correct it the right way.
Well, I think what was just alluded to, Councilman Gambrell, is that he has the quitclaim deed on that alleyway. In
The
which,
whole right-of-way, the whole alleyway.
right, in which this line is running, and what he has said is that we would work out an easement agreement for this line, and we would do that, we would have that worked on prior to commencing work on that property. We would get the easement for this line moving forward.
As a condition. So, Mr. Parliamentarian, we need to adjust, are you wanting to adjust the motion to include a condition of quitclaim or easement? Is that what you're
By
saying?
all means.
So, in changing, we've got a first and we've got a second. And we're in discussion on it. Help me out, Mr. Gambrell.
If you're gonna have to make an amendment to the motion, you gotta take both motions back, first and second. And then make another motion with the agreement of the people that made the motion. And then you have to,
Okay, we have a first by Ms. Whittle and a second by Mr. Prowse. If either of you or both of you would have to remove your motion. So, yeah, both of you.
Mr. Mayor, I withdraw.
Okay, Mr. Prowse?
I withdraw my second.
All right, we have 2 withdrawals, and now I'm looking for a new motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make the new motion with the added adjustment that we have the quitclaim deed and we have all the information that we need for that alleyway, for the easement for the alleyway.
Second, Mr. Prowse?
Second.
Thank you. Now, any discussion on this? District,
So can I get a clarification based off of that motion? Is this a motion to approve the funding based on having an easement agreement worked out prior to commencing work?
yes.
Sir.
Okay. Just as
Thank you.
clarification on the funding.
District 2,
Yes.
District 6,
Yes.
District 7,
Yes.
District 8,
Yes.
and I vote yes. It passes. Thank you. Moving on to item C, approval of funds related to relocation of a water line along Pershing Street and Skyline Drive. Do I have a motion?
Motion for the first purpose of discussion.
I have a motion to approve the funds related to relocation of water line along Pershing Street and Skyline Drive by Mr. Gambrell. Do I have a second? I have no second. Motion dies. Moving on to new business. Proclamation Autism Awareness Month of April 2019. Let's see. Do we have visitors today? None. Okay, I've got to pull up my proclamation. You have one printed out? There it is. It's not printed on this one. Thank you. Proclamation, whereas autism spectrum disorder is a severely incapacitating lifelong developmental disability resulting in significant impairment of an individual's ability to learn, develop healthy interactive behaviors, and understand verbal, nonverbal, and reciprocal communication. And whereas autism spectrum disorder is the 3rd most common developmental disability affecting an estimated 1.5 million Americans and approximately 24,000 individuals in the state of South Carolina. And whereas although a cure for autism spectrum disorder has not been found, accurate early diagnosis and the resulting appropriate education and intervention can help persons with autism spectrum disorder reach their maximum potential. And whereas support groups throughout South Carolina and the nation are dedicated to supporting the rights, humane treatment, and appropriate education of all persons with autism spectrum disorder. And whereas the annual observance of Autism Awareness Month educates families, professionals, and the general public to better understand this lifelong disability. Now therefore be it resolved that the Mayor and Town Council of Batesburg-Leesville do hereby proclaim April 2019 as Autism Awareness Month. Actually, I need a motion for that before I said that last piece. Motion by Mr. Gambrell. Do I have a second? A second by Ms. Hallman. Any discussion? All in favor?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
We do have a family. Jerissa is here with her family. She's a very active member of Dream Catchers. I
Awesome.
would like for her to stand.
Please, please. Is anyone going to speak?
No, I just wanted to recognize her and her family.
Thank you for coming. Thank you guys for coming. It's awesome. Any other discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. And all opposed, and the proclamation for Autism Awareness Month of April 2019 has been approved. Thank you for coming, you guys. Autism Awareness Month throughout the town, so I'll just read this last piece again. Now therefore be it resolved that the mayor and town council of Batesburg-Leesville do hereby proclaim April 2019 as Autism Awareness Month throughout the town of Batesburg-Leesville and encourage all citizens to work together to ensure that individuals with autism spectrum disorder are accurately diagnosed and appropriately treated throughout their lives. Thank you. All right, moving on. This is a proclamation for Parkinson's Awareness Month of April 2019. Do I have a motion to accept?
So moved.
Mr. Gambrell, and a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Hallman. And any discussion? I will read this proclamation. Whereas Parkinson's disease is a chronic progressive neurological disorder that affects an estimated 1.5 million Americans, and whereas Parkinson's disease has 4 major symptoms, including trembling in the hands, arms, legs, jaw, and face, stiffness of the limbs and trunk, slowness of movement, and impaired balance and coordination, which generally lead to difficulty in walking, talking, or completing other simple tasks. And whereas even though there is presently no cure for this disease, medications are available to help people manage the symptoms. And whereas research continues into the causes and possible cure and is contributing to the development of improved treatment options that can help enhance the quality of life for people affected by Parkinson's disease. Any other discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? It is approved. Now therefore be it resolved that the mayor and town council of Batesburg-Leesville do hereby proclaim April 2019 as Parkinson's Awareness Month throughout the town of Batesburg-Leesville and encourage all citizens to work together to raise awareness and understanding of this debilitating disease. On this day, the 11th day of March 2019. Thank you. Moving on to item 10, this is the manager's report. If the manager would please come on up.
I think we're going to start with a survivor coin presentation presented by Lexington County EMS, and Miss Megan Holman, Councilwoman Megan Holman is going to do the presentation.
I don't like hurting my fat people, so here we go. All right, if you guys are not aware, every year Lexington County has around 600 to 800 cardiac arrests. Out of those cardiac arrests, about 20 people last year were discharged neurologically intact. It's because of the first responders, whether they're the police, fire, or EMS, that they're able to revive these people so they can go home to their families. So I'm going to call out some names of these fire service personnel. I would love for them to stay up here. That's why you can get a picture with them, all right? Captain Bobby Hallman. If you watch out, when you come up here, you can understand that a normal survivor usually takes 10 personnel, whether it's fire, EMS, and the communication and police, to take care of them.
Should we applaud for each one or hold my applause because I'm
Let's hold
feeling
it.
like I should? Okay.
Lieutenant Dustin Cracks. Firefighter Blake Sheely. Firefighter Dylan Rice. If you remember last council meeting, fire service, we attended this twice and they left us for structure fire. We also have some people that are not here. Assistant Chief Shane Summers, Assistant Chief John Gall, Lieutenant Chris Hallman, and Firefighter DJ Attaway. This patient was only one patient, surprisingly, they brought back to, and they were actually able to go back home to their family. So far this year, we've had 6 people go home from the hospital, which is statistically outstanding for our county. So because of their efforts, I want to join in applauding them for helping the citizens of Batesburg-Leesville out.
Can you hold y'all certificates up for me, please?
Yes, absolutely.
All right.
I'm going to stand by Mr. Hallman. Come on, man. Wait, watch your hands up, fella.
1, 2,
If you can't see the lens can't see you, so make sure.
2, 3. Let me get one more. 1, 2, 3. Got it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, Ms. Holmes.
Yes, sir.
Right off the top of your head, how many hours do these individuals have to commit to get certified in order to be able to perform CPR on their own time?
So last year, the Batesburg-Leesville Fire Department actually took a month-long, a 80-hour course in emergency first responders, and they actually got certified through National Registry, which is a vetted course. So they actually had to do nationalized testing, and then they actually are AHA certified in first aid CPR, and that's about a 4-hour to 5-hour class, depending on if it's their first time or not.
That's outstanding.
And they have to do that on a biannual basis to maintain their certification.
Outstanding.
Thank you. Mr. Manager, moving on, updates for the SDDOT and several other things, if you would, please.
Okay. SCDOT TAP grant, we've got an update since the last time I updated council on this. Tim Shumpert and I did attend the pre-construction meeting this past Tuesday, a week ago from tomorrow, at the SCDOT offices with the contractor who's been awarded the job, Palmetto Corporation of Conway. This was a pre-construction meeting just to talk through the next steps from here and project timeline. The notice to proceed for the Highway 1 portion of sidewalk, and I'll remind everybody, that is from right there where Angelo's is at Livingston Place, installing new sidewalks along through there to about the new brick oven pizza place that's being constructed. There's no sidewalk through there, and then it's replacement of the sidewalk for the rest of the way up to North Lee Street. At the same time, they are going to go ahead and run the conduit so that if decorative lamp posts were to be installed there in the future, that electrical line is stubbed out, ready for that to be done when that time comes. But the notice to proceed was awarded for last Tuesday at that meeting. By contract with Palmetto Corporation, the sidewalk must be completed by June 30th of this year, 2019. If it goes past this date, they are subject to a $600 per day fine that it's not, unless there are unforeseen circumstances such as significant rain that keeps them from progressing in their work.
I'm assuming DOT will inspect that so that they don't hurry up and make us a half-inch sidewalk. No?
Correct. DOT will be performing inspections to the standards, the minimum standards that are required. The contractor did state they intend to start in the next 2 to 3 weeks. Within a week to 2 weeks, we should see the construction signs being installed along that track. Their intent is to remove and reinstall sidewalk at about 150 feet at a time. So they're not going to go through and rip up the entire stretch of sidewalk and then come back and pour. They intend to go about 150 feet at a time throughout this project. I asked them realistically, should there be good weather that allows them to get out there and work, what is the realistic time frame that they feel like they can complete this job? And they said 1.5 to 2 months would be realistic in their time frame. So one of our concerns was to communicate effectively with us so that we can put it out to the public and know when there may be disruptions with traffic that day, days that they're going to be pouring and concrete trucks are going to be holding up traffic for any period of time, and to also communicate with the businesses that are along that stretch. And they stated that they would keep an open line of communication with us. They have multiple people's cell phone numbers to be able to contact us as a town so we can put it out. but they will be going into the businesses along the way as they approach those businesses to communicate their plan with them as they progress.
And one thing I think is very important for the citizens of Batesburg-Leesville to understand is the funding of this sidewalk. If you could explain the funding of this sidewalk.
Okay, this sidewalk was funded through South Carolina Transportation Alternative Program grant funds. We received $400,000 from SCDOT as part of this project. We received $101,000 from Lexington County and C funds, and the town pitched in $88,000. And so the majority of it has been paid by DOT and Lexington County.
Thank you.
Moving on. Our police dispatch system, which was approved in the budget, we built up this new Viper system that had come out, and how wonderful it was going to be and what a good upgrade. Our old dispatch system had reached end of life. Council did approve funding in this current year budget to put a new dispatch system in, with 80% of that being reimbursed from the state. The new Viper system has been installed, and changeover is slated for the 14th and 15th of this month. Now, AT&T did give us some concern this past week, caught us off guard, but they did follow that up with some good news. They are going to discontinue manufacturing the V-Viper system, the brand new one that we just had installed. And they let us know that the new system, C-Blade, is a $40,000 upgrade, and that's where we really paused and got frantic. However, they did come around and say that they would not charge us the additional $40,000, and they were going to install the new C-Blade. They're going to come back out and uninstall the brand new system and install the C-Blade system. I believe that was this past weekend, Chief, did they come out? So they're still working on it, and they said that that should not disrupt the March 14th and 15th changeover to the new dispatch system. So it's positive. We're getting the most up-to-date dispatch system. We probably will be the first or among the first in the state of South Carolina to have this dispatch system. The bike and pedestrian study, we had 23 people attend this past Thursday night. The update by our consulting team that's performing the bike and pedestrian study. I know a few council members did pop in for that, and we had 23 people from the public show up to look at the work that's been done at this point and to look at the recommendations that have been made by the consulting firm at this point on priority projects and other additional projects that they foresee in the future when it comes to walking bikeability in the town. A couple of the highlighted projects that they brought up were the installation of a sidewalk that a shared use path that runs from the downtown Batesburg district to the downtown Leesville business district along the railroad tracks. When that was, they had people rank the projects, and that one received the most number of votes that evening for people to weigh in on what they thought would be great for the town. A couple other ones to highlight that received a lot were running out North Lee Street with sidewalks to the 391-245 split, and coming back and meeting up at the high school with the sidewalk along that track. That was another one that was highly recommended. If the public would like to view the draft plan, or anyone would like to view the draft plan, I do have.
Could you go ahead and just read that for the people watching at home?
All right, get your pens out. This is fairly long, but it's www.surveyGizmo.com/S3/4882248/Chapin-Swansea-Batesburg-Leesville dash bicycle dash and dash pedestrian dash master dash plan.
Thank you for that, Mr. Manager.
You're welcome.
That brings a little joy to my heart.
So the draft plan.
This link is available on the website?
We have put it on our social media accounts. It's on the website as well. It's a lot easier to go click a link button than it is to try and type that in, which I did the first time, so. But you can view the draft plan there, and you can also vote on priority projects on that website based on what you view in the draft plan.
Thank you.
All right. Got something really exciting would like to talk about. Last Tuesday, met with John Ando, who is the executive director of the Comet Bus Service, which is bus service in downtown Columbia, for those that may not be familiar, the public transportation system. And one of their things, they've got some additional funding that they need to spend on an annual basis, and their board of directors are pushing them. Well, they've been working closely with Central Midlands Council of Governments and the Transportation Department there, and there's been a lot of talk about the need for rural transportation services. And when it came out, it's not just to get people around here in town, but it's to get people linked from Batesburg-Leesville to Lexington area, to the services that people may seek there, all the way as far as Dorn VA Medical Hospital. And so what they've proposed, and this is a pilot study that they want to do for 1 year. When they first mentioned it, it was running and it's 1 day a week is what they proposed. But when they first mentioned it, their thought was to take one bus and to run it from Casey, West Columbia to Batesburg-Leesville, back to Lexington. But our concern was if someone didn't get picked up in Batesburg-Leesville till 9 or 10 o'clock, and they were dropped off in Lexington, by the time that thing made a loop and came back through, they may be sitting there for 5 or 6 hours when all they needed to do was pay their tax bill. And that was a concern. So we made the request to have 2 buses on this 1 day. And when we say buses, we're not talking about full-size buses. Right. They have smaller. Was to have 2 buses committed to just Batesburg-Leesville to Lexington on those 2 days, on that 1 day a week. And Casey West Columbia can have 1 or 2 buses, whatever they want to do for them, that's fine. But we've asked for 2 buses that will be on a constant loop this 1 day between Lexington and Batesburg-Leesville. Now, the Casey West Columbia will have stops, and the stops will intertwine with each other. So if you want to get to Casey West Columbia or Lexington Medical Center, there would be a point in Lexington where you can get off and then jump on that bus when it comes, and it would take you to Lexington Medical Center.
Okay, good.
So it would ultimately, you would have the ability to link at that point all the way to downtown Columbia and to VA. They're hoping to start this on May 2019. We've asked them to get this plan finalized because May is knocking on the door. There are some communication efforts, and I would invite anyone in this community, if there are some good pickup points in town, I would say 3 or 4 pickup points in town that you think would be really good spots, please share those with us. Email us or give us a call, something, just share your thoughts on pickup points and what you think would be good. So we will continue to work with them to get through this. Just to highlight the Lexington stops that are being on now, once you left Batesburg-Leesville, they would connect to the Red Bank Crossing on Highway 6, which has Lexington County services there. It would go to the Lexington County Administration Building and Courthouse area, and then would likely go out to 378 and serve as a point of contact, maybe around the Target areas. That's proposed right now. So.
I mean, how are they figuring that out? I mean, working with you, obviously, but I mean, are they polling, talking to citizens of Batesburg-Leesville? Are they, what's the interaction?
So 2 things we've requested. Number 1, a survey that they draft up to seek feedback from the community that we can put out and get feedback from where do people need to go for services from Batesburg-Leesville. Second thing is we've asked them to have a community drop in one evening to allow people to come and interact and have conversation about the services that they need transportation to in the Lexington area. area or ultimately in the downtown area so that they can talk about linking up and connecting to those services. Still waiting to hear back on a couple proposed dates to try and put that community drop-in together, and still waiting on the survey for feedback.
Okay, thank you.
Figured I would remind again, it's getting closer now, March 23rd, Saturday, March 23rd from 9 o'clock until 1 o'clock. We are having what has become an annual electronic recycling event at the high school in the main parking lot, big parking lot. This year, we will continue to do electronics. There will be a limit of 8 electronics per household. We will again have paper shredding services. We will accept up to 5 boxes or 5 bags per household. Tires, we will accept up to 8 tires, no commercial tractor-sized tires. We're talking regular standard tires. And household waste, this is a new one this year that's been included. So any paint cans, aerosol cans, old cleaning supplies, they will have a place for people to drop off those types of hazardous waste this year. Partners, Lexington School District 3, Advanced Disposal, Chamber, list goes on and on putting this event together. And we really appreciate the high school. That parking lot served us well last year. So. All right. Now I'd like to talk a little bit about the South Carolina DHEC contacted us not long ago talking about the town's consent order. The original one was issued in 2013 to the town that included a number of different issues. Well, since 2000, obviously the main one being the source water quantity, aka water project. But there were a lot of other ones like the remediation of water tanks. There were some hydrants that had low pressures. A lot of those we have satisfied those since 2013. And so they wanted, and we just recently had our updated annual survey by DHEC. And they wanted to update the consent order and basically retract that one and issue a new one. And here are the following items that were noted on the DHEC consent order. The water source quantity, that is a carryover. They would like to see a valve and hydrant maintenance program written and put into place and done. Now I know between our fire department, we do a lot of hydrant maintenance on an annual basis, but we don't have a written program in place, and they would like to see a written program for that, and valve maintenance and replacement. The other one is the installation of a security gate at the water plant. They do have concern about the ability for people to free flow in and out of the water plant, as it is a public drinking water system. They would like to see it secured. They have given us 60 days to do something about this, and I know that we are underway with building a plan for the gate and to try and get that to you as council to get a decision on that.
And was that part of the original consent order?
The gate was not.
And why? Do you think that was not part of the original consent order?
I can't.
You weren't here, I guess.
I was not with the town at that time.
Has there ever been a working gate?
Tim, was there ever,
A
was that
working?
brought up in 2013?
No.
No.
It used to be a lock and key. First man in unlocked it, last man out locked it.
Okay.
So,
All right.
we're looking at automated gate systems to allow for free flow traffic. Employees working or people that can need to come in. The other one was we need to replace some chemical metering pumps for the alum and caustic feed systems, and they would like for us to put some new pumps in place for that, as ours are really old, and they would like for us to have a couple spares on hand related to that. And again, they gave us a 60-day notice on that one as well. So we will be coming back to council here soon for those. And any questions at this point? Okay, the last thing I have is hospitality tax update on the collection of hospitality. For the month of January, we had $41,502.71 paid in hospitality tax to the town. If that amount were to hold true and consistent, which it won't be exactly the same every month, but if that were to hold true, that would be approximately $498,000 a year. So we will just continue to monitor that, and I just wanted to let you know what that final was for the month of January.
Thank you. Moving on to item C, Fire Department end of year presentation. Mr. Hendricks.
Good evening. You each have a packet on your desk. We had planned to do this, I think we originally planned for January, then that got pushed back in last month with the fire, so it's a little bit dated, but we're wrapping up 2018. Just kind of quickly roll through it. Feel free to stop me if you have any questions. The first page after the cover sheet just kind of broke down 2018 total call volume by call type and by month. That's the data that you receive monthly, so that's pretty mundane, pretty simple. 954 total calls for 2018. Going to the next page, it shows the call volume increase dating back to 2007. In 2007, we had 358 calls, with the exception of 2009, which was a slight decrease. We have seen a steady increase annually. The biggest increase started around 2012 when we started running first responder calls, as Councilman Hallman referenced earlier. So last year we saw an increase from 910 in 2017 to the 954. And this year we're on a similar pace as well. Now, you asked what are those calls? If you flip to the next page, it kind of breaks it down a little bit more in depth from 2015 to 2018. The big one in the middle, the mountain, is first responder calls. Just going back in that 4 years, you've gone from 298 to 472 calls last year. So again, the medical side is what's driving a lot of this.
And why?
One of the things that happened, I believe it was in 2016, was a change in the dispatch protocol in Lexington County. It changed from, I'm not sure the best way. It used to be we had 13 call types that we were dispatched to for medical. The new Pro QA dispatch protocol changed it to, it's a little more fluid. It's not as clean cut, but if you're complaining of chest pain or if you complain of breathing difficulties, we're going to get sent to that one, even if it was, maybe you're having difficulty breathing because you have the flu or, it's congestion. Sometimes we get sent to calls that may not be as critical as it used to be. So there are some times we get sent to sick person calls when it's really not, they need to go to the doctor, but they don't need a first responder. So there are some calls in there that I'd love to see eliminated, but the intent is that you will catch one or two that you may not have called before. So we get a lot of extra calls that we didn't before. So the net got bigger, for lack of a better term, in 2016. So that was a big driver in the first responder calls.
So if our responsibility got bigger, our net got bigger, that means someone else's got smaller. And did that other person, other entity that got smaller, send us the funds to help us make up the difference?
Nobody saw a decrease in
Mr. Mayor,
responsibility.
the EMS calls throughout the county have increased, so nothing has gotten smaller with it.
Yeah, we may be responding more often with EMS. EMS is still responding to all of those calls.
Eat your broccoli.
or drive yourself to the doctor instead of calling the ambulance, which I'm sure Councilman Holman would agree with as well. Yes, sir.
What's the time period that the rescue squad ceased?
Blake, when did the rescue squad stop responding to that? 2016.
That's about the same period we're talking about.
Okay. Blake is the rescue squad's guru. There you go. Good term there. You also notice that public service calls are a significant part of our response as well. Public service is kind of generic. A lot of that is, the old TV commercial, I've fallen and I can't get up. We do a lot of lifting assistance. Some of those may be simply checking smoke alarms or CO alarms as well. But the majority of that is lifting assistance. if you see on the left, the structure fires, vehicle fires, woods fires, fires are not a big number of the fire department's responses. Flipping over to the next page, you see.
Can I ask one question?
Certainly.
On the first responders, how has this affected the response time?
The last 2 pages will deal with response time, so we can touch on that in just a few minutes.
Okay, thanks.
But moving on to the call type, again, it just stretches it out back to 2007, and again, you see the dramatic increase in medical. Back in the early 21st century, 2007 through 10 range, we ran very, very little medical calls. We were not officially first responding at that time. Basically, that would have been some type of assistance given to the EMS unit upon their request, not responding in advance. But if you notice at the bottom, the fire calls back in 2007 were 66. It peaked last year at 109. A lot of those were going deeper into Lexington County for tanker runs. Last year actually was down to 53, so we've seen a reduction on the fire side. But it actually has been pretty linear over the course of the decade. One item that I like to focus on the next page, the firefighter participation for in-town structure fires since 2007. Again, we're the fire department, if we go to a medical call, we know EMS is coming. There's other people that are responding to that and we're assisting. But when it comes to firefighting, we are the fire department and that's our bread and butter. Sometimes it's difficult to measure an out-of-town structure fire because it may only be a request for one tanker to go 10, 15 miles away, as opposed to in-town structure fires. Those are our total responsibility as the municipal fire department. So last year, we only had 3 actual structure fires in town, and we averaged 16 personnel on scene. And again, I remind you, we have 5 career positions. Myself, I work Monday through Friday. We rotate 3 firefighters 24-hour shifts. They're based out of the Leesville station. So you've got 1 firefighter on duty 24 hours a day, and they rotate those 3. And then the grant position, which is recruitment and retention officer that is teaching at the high school. So those are your four main paid staff, with the grant position being a teacher, essentially. So when you see 16, that's 14 or 15 volunteers that are responding to those calls. So wow. We have the strongest volunteer department in Lexington County. Lexington County, I believe, has 42 total volunteers. We have 35 at the moment, and we've got 5 in the pipeline. So we have, Josh is doing a great job with the recruitment and retention side. So we're trying to, we realize that the town budget is limited, so we want to make sure that we have a strong, viable volunteer department. And I think that's evident with that increase in participation last year. Now, with that said, moving on to the next 2 items, it deals with response times. And I apologize for the chart going with black and white. The numbers for the 2017 response times are not visible. We saw about a 10-second increase on our response times. In the Leesville district last year, it was 4 minutes and 42 seconds, and that's from the time the pager goes off and we're dispatched to arrival on scene. So under 5 minutes to arrival on scene of the Leesville district. The Batesburg district is 6 minutes and 14 seconds. So about a minute and a half difference. And as I note down at the bottom, again, career staff is housed at our Leesville station. There is nobody staffing the Batesburg station at night. So at nighttime, if there is a call for any type, the first truck that's going to be rolling is going to be coming out of Leesville. So just imagine that's another couple of mile difference that they've got to make up going from Leesville to the Batesburg district, hence the increase in time. Your question in regards to first responder response time, one of the things that we have used for several years now, we do utilize a pickup truck as they usually call them a QRV, a quick response vehicle. So we utilize a pickup truck for our first responder calls and those public service calls. It is obviously a little bit quicker than driving a large engine, but it also saves a lot of wear and tear on those engines. So we're able to stretch out that service life on the engines and utilize a $30,000 pickup truck as well. I did not break down a difference between, this is a response time for all emergency responses. Public service calls are not typically, those are actually never going to be an emergency response. They're a non-emergent response. So this is for your emergencies, be it medical, be it fire, be it wrecks, any of those kind of things. So that is the number. Does that kind of answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. And then the last page, just to kind of give you a little bit of contrast, the contract area response times, that includes our contracted area in Lexington and Saluda County. Again, it's a quicker response time on the Leesville end of town, 7:39 compared to 8:55 in the contracted areas that are outside of the Batesburg end. Again.
And why is that again?
You know, my office is at the Batesburg station,
Right.
so I'm there a portion of the daytime. But our paid staff, the 24-hour staff, is housed at our Leesville station. So certainly after 5 o'clock, you know, during the middle of the night, your first unit is rolling out of the Leesville station. If there's a fire, you know, Dylan is one of our, and Bobby, are two of our closest firefighters on the Batesburg end. So they're responding to responding apparatus as well. So they will go to the station, get a truck, and respond to the scene. But obviously, for a medical call, you're just getting one apparatus. That would be the pickup truck out of Leesville. So you may have a person who arrives on scene, but the actual fire truck or quick response vehicle is not arriving until, you know, in those response times. So it's typically probably 2/3 of our calls are being answered with just that one career staff member on duty.
And so,
Is that clear enough?
yeah, I'm real close. The volume between the two districts.
I did not break that down. It is pretty close to 50-50. It's probably 55% Batesburg, 45% Leesville. We respond probably more in the contract area on the Leesville end as opposed to on the Batesburg end. But it's fairly even response districts. One disadvantage of Batesburg is we don't have a specific bunk room. So whenever the day comes, we have stuff, we would have to do some renovations to that building to have living quarters at that station. Would be major renovations, but it would have to be some renovations made to have an actual bunk room. Just for clarity's sake, with the 24-hour shift, they do have a bed, they do have shower facilities, so they are essentially living in that location. And you know, hopefully at night they're able to sleep through the night, but then there's those nights when they don't get to sleep because of call volume. So at this time, the only bed room that we have is at the Leesville station. Anybody else have any other questions?
How do your response times compare to national response times on average?
Our in-town numbers are very good. I mean, the Leesville numbers being sub 5 minutes exceeds national standards.
What's national standards?
It is NFPA. I couldn't quote you the actual standard, but our 4 minutes and was it 42 seconds is sub 5 minutes, which is exceptional. 6 minutes is it is acceptable, but it's not as good. And we strive to be better, but you know, with the limitations of volunteer staffing, you know, just imagine rolling out of bed at 2 in the morning and getting dressed and getting in your car, then driving to another location, you know, half a mile away. Which
I have teenagers, I really don't want to.
Yeah, just imagine though, I mean, for our firefighter who's on duty, I mean, they're in the station, they're getting dressed and rolling and being on the scene within 5 minutes. For a volunteer to go from their house or drive to the fire station, get their gear, get in the other vehicle, crank it up, and then drive to the scene, obviously 6.5 minutes would be, it's not practical. So there might be a couple of times that they'll beat them, but in the middle of the night, that's not going to happen. So the only way to truly improve that would be more staffing. And the Batesburg station is the only unmanned station at night in Lexington County. And in fact, with only one person on duty for all of Batesburg-Leesville, we are the least career staff in the county. The county stations have a minimum of 2 people per station. So we do the best we can with our resources.
Jay.
Yes, sir.
Gentleman that's out at the high school.
Yes, sir.
Does he have the capability of leading that and joining y'all in fire?
Not during class time, no.
Not during class time?
No, not during class time. The grant is a recruitment and retention position, and they specifically said, you know, that he's not really supposed to be running calls. They don't have a problem if there's a structure fire and he responds. That's not the point. It's not like he can't respond, but during class hours, he's responsible for those things. Anybody else have any other questions? Good questions, thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hendricks, or Chief. Thank you.
Moving on to executive session, we have 3 items for discussion this evening. Item A is discussion of contractual matters relating to building inspection services for the town. Item B, discussion of contractual matters relating to the selection of consulting firm to perform a water project alternative study. And the third item, item C, is discussion of contractual matters relating to the selection of consulting firm to perform a master plan study. Do I have a motion to go into executive session for these items?
So moved.
Mr. Gambrell, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Holman. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, and we are in executive session. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to request a motion to return to regular council meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Browse and Ms. Holman is second. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? We are back in regular session. Moving on to item 12, possible actions by council and follow-up to executive session. Do we have any motion?
Mr. Mayor, I move we approve a 60-day contract between Statesville and the town to provide these services.
The building inspection.
Correct.
I have a motion on the floor
Second.
by Ms. Whittle and a second by Ms. Hallman. Any discussion? District 2,
Yes.
District 6,
Yes.
7,
Yes.
District 8,
Yes.
and I vote yes. The contract has been approved. Any other items, follow-up items to executive session?
I have one, Mr. Mayor. I move that we select Hazen and Sawyer engineering firm to perform the water alternative study for the town.
I have a motion by Mr. Prowse,
Second.
second by Ms. Hallman. Any discussion? District 2,
Yes.
District 6,
Yes.
District 7,
Yes.
District 8,
Yes.
and I vote yes. The contract has been approved. Any other items for possible actions coming out of executive session?
Mr. Mayor, I recommend that council select the land plan group as a, to go to the master plan.
I have a motion by Ms. Hallman, for the land plan group for the master plan study.
Second.
Second by Ms. Whittle. Any discussion? District 2,
Yes.
District 6,
Yes.
District 7,
Yes.
District 8,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Contract has been approved. Potential agenda items for next month's meeting, April the 8th, 2019. Moving on to item 14, adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Seven.
Ms. Hallman, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Prowse. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, we are adjourned. Thank you.